what's up guys, and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be traveling to North Carolina. Today's video is titled How North Carolina is slowly turning into America's next megacity. I just recently watched a very similar video on Florida, I think, or some other state. So I'm interested to see what North Carolina has to offer. Let's see what this video is about.
This
About. I don't know what is going on with my voice today. Wow.
This is North Carolina. With a population of about 11.2 million, it doesn't usually dominate national headlines, but
That's more than in Finland alone, I think. I'm pretty sure it is.
quietly, it's becoming one of the fastest changing places in the United States. On its own, none of the state's major cities seem that unusual. To most people, Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, and Greensboro all look like typical fast-growing Sunbelt cities. But when you zoom out, something strange starts to appear. These cities aren't growing in isolation. They're growing toward each other, faster than almost anywhere in the country. Between 2020 and 2024, Raleigh was the second fastest growing metro area in the US by percentage, while Charlotte ranked 7th in...
Okay, but North Carolina is massive, so is it suggesting that it's going to become just like a huge city blob? Imagine if the states were like... Most of Europeans think that a state is kind of like the size of a city, which is definitely not. It's the size of a whole country. Imagine a state being a whole city. That would be crazy.
area in the US by percentage, while Charlotte ranked 7th and recorded the 4th largest population increase overall. Both cities have expanded far beyond their footprints from just a decade ago, with new suburban development spreading in every direction. Between them, Greensboro and Winston-Salem are also growing steadily, gradually filling in the gaps. Together, all of these cities are beginning to form what looks less like separate metros and more like a single, continuous urban region, home to most of the state's population. So, why is this region growing so fast, and what does it mean for the future of North Carolina? For most of American history, North Carolina was not an urban state at all. Its economy was dominated by agriculture, textiles, and tobacco, with the population spread across small towns rather than concentrated in large cities. Unlike places like New York or the Great Lakes, it never developed a single dominant metro early on. Instead, multiple modest-sized cities emerged, each serving a different role. Charlotte grew as a banking and transportation hub. Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill developed around government, education, and research, while Greensboro and Winston-Salem became manufacturing and logistics centers. For decades, these cities were still very small and separated by large stretches of rural land. This all started to change in the mid to late 20th century. Highways connected the state more tightly than ever before. At the same time, air conditioning made the South far more livable, and manufacturing jobs began shifting away from the Northeast and Midwest. Then came a second major...
I feel like some, like, North Carolina isn't talked about that much when it comes to, like, well, maybe it's just me, but I haven't heard that much about North Carolina than, like, I don't know, other states like New York, you know, Texas, because also that's kind of what the first states that we get to know as Europeans. But I've always had a good outlook on North Carolina. It seems like just very kind of peaceful, nice. I don't know. It feels like a good place to be. Maybe I should move to North Carolina, guys.
began shifting away from the Northeast and Midwest. Then came a second major shift, the transition to a knowledge and service-based economy. The Research Triangle was intentionally designed to attract high-tech companies and research institutions. Charlotte became one of the largest banking centers in the country. As jobs diversified and wages rose, North Carolina became increasingly attractive to people moving from more expensive or slower growing regions. But instead of one city absorbing all that growth, it spread across multiple metros at once. And over time, those once separated cities began expanding outward. Subdivisions, office parks.
I just realized there's so many people living in North Carolina that there must be someone who lives in North Carolina here. Hi.
Separated cities began expanding outward. Subdivisions, office parks, logistics hubs, and highways slowly filling the space between them. What used to be empty countryside is now the connective tissue of a much larger urban system. And that brings us to today. Charlotte is the largest city by far and also the city that has expanded the most. With a population of over 900,000 and 2.9 million when counting the full metro area, it has grown by 93% since 2005, the highest percentage increase among North America's major cities. It still welcomes ropely 157 newcomers every day, and the impact is visible. Just look
Every day?
at this time lapse.
Wait. 157 people move. How much is that in a year? 157 people every day? That's a crazy amount. 157 in a year. How many days are there in a year? 300 and something. 56,991. Well, around 57,000 people move to North Carolina every year. So to Charlotte. So that's like 100,000 in 2 years. That can't be right.
Every day, and the impact is visible. Just look at this time lapse from 1884 to 2022. As you can clearly see, the city has spread far beyond Mecklenburg County, pushing into South Carolina, east toward Monroe, and north toward Mooresville and Lake Norman. Suburbs that were once small towns or rural land are now fully integrated into the Charlotte region, connected by highways, office parks, and massive residential developments. Meanwhile, 2 hours to the northeast, the Research Triangle has been undergoing a completely different but equally dramatic transformation. Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill have grown together into a single economic engine, home to approximately 2.4 million people. What used to be clearly separate cities are now tied together by continuous development along I-40 and I-540. Raleigh in particular has expanded at an incredible pace. The population of its metro area has nearly tripled from only 548,000 in the year 2000 to 1.6 million by 2025.
But these cities must be like massive. When does it come to a point where you're like, I don't live in Charlotte, I live, I don't know, somewhere else? Like, how big can a city be? I don't know, because I feel like the cities that I am used to, like you can get from one side of the city to the other one in 20 minutes by car. And then if you go further, that's another city, you know?
Entire new suburbs have appeared almost overnight, pushing development beyond Wake County into parts of Johnston and Durham counties as well. Durham, while not experiencing a boom on the scale of Raleigh's, is still growing steadily, expanding outward while also densifying its core. Even Chapel Hill, which has historically had a slower population growth, is still being pulled into the region's expansion simply because of how strong the demand has become. Many people even advocate for the Raleigh and Durham metro areas to officially merge because of the fact that they are increasingly functioning as a single, interconnected region, and that a unified metro would be more competitive with other major hubs. After all, the airport is named Raleigh-Durham International Airport. And then there's the Piedmont Triad: Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. This area hasn't exactly exploded in population like the other regions, but it never collapsed. In recent years, it has managed to diversify its economy with growth in logistics, healthcare, education, and advanced manufacturing. Geographically, it also sits at a critical point, directly along I-40 and I-85, halfway between Charlotte and the Triangle, making the region impossible to ignore as both ends continue expanding outward. In short, while these regions aren't officially merging, they increasingly resemble a single mega-region rather than a collection of separate cities, not just in scale, but in how they function. However, explosive growth like this always comes with challenges. The first is transportation. This entire region is almost completely car-dependent, and I-40 and I-85 were never designed to function as the main arteries of a single urban system. Yet, that's exactly what they're becoming. Commutes are getting longer, congestion is increasing, and there are very few alternatives to driving. Well, you can take the Piedmont or Carolinian Amtrak trains, which connect much of the region, and
Okay, well, at least North Carolina has trains. But I feel like this is becoming an issue in a lot of places in America. Like the cities are expanding very quickly, but the transportation is getting kind of trickier because of the amount of people and amount of cars. Kind of like in Atlanta. Every time I hear traffic, I just think about Atlanta, but
have been gaining popularity, attracting over 720,000 riders in 2024, which was a large increase from previous years. However, these trains often take longer than driving, and the frequency is too low for everyday use. After all, they aren't designed for daily commuting, which makes it difficult for them to meaningfully relieve pressure on the highways. The second challenge, which also ties into the car dependency, is sprawl. Because growth has spread outward instead of upward, most developments are low-density suburban. In Charlotte, for example, 84% of all residential land is zoned exclusively for single-family homes, which is clearly visible when looking at it from above. While the city has been making an effort to densify with townhomes, larger mixed-use buildings, and duplexes, these developments are usually only in central areas or corridors near major roads.
Okay, wait, I have a question. If you guys live in the suburbs, suburbs, like outside of the city in a region like this in the photo, do you guys have like buses that go from there to the main city? Because in Finland and in Spain as well, you have a bus stop like every corner pretty much. So if you were to live in a place like this, could you just catch the bus to go to the city, or do you have to take your car to go to the nearest bus station and then take the bus if you were to take the bus? Or how does that work?
Then there's housing. For years, North Carolina's biggest advantage was affordability, but that is changing quickly. Home prices in Charlotte now sit around $385,000, up roughly 2.7% from the year before. Raleigh is even more expensive, with a median home price of about $450,000, above the national median and a sharp increase from just a few years ago. Prices in the Piedmont Triad remain lower by comparison, but they too continue to rise. In short, North Carolina's three largest metro areas are all growing fast and slowly forming a single, interconnected urban region. How the region handles transportation, housing, and ongoing growth will shape its future, whether for better or worse.
It's growing very, very quickly. I very much doubt that it's gonna get any worse. If anything, I think maybe the cities will kind of merge into one, which is pretty cool. I think I find it quite fascinating. But hey, thank you for joining me for this video. I really hope you liked it. Let me know if you're in the North Carolina area. And yeah, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!